Never again.
Kratos, the great Spartan general, was finally defeated. Driven mad, tortured and uncertain of his surroundings, the warrior found himself captured like a fly in the web of the Furies.
We'll see how you fare against the Hecatonkries!
You waver from sound mind to illusion in the beat of a heart. Is that any life for a great warrior? The truth waits for you in Delphi, Kratos. Seek the Oracle.
And welcome back to episode 2 of Let's Play God of War Ascension. Real quick, we're taking a look at the main menu just to show off that a weird bug occurred on my PS3 for some reason, and it caused me to have to play around with the display settings for a little bit just to get everything to match up again. It was weird. It only happened for episode 1, and then the rest of it just was fine for some reason. And now I'm also going to show off that when I did start a new game, I did actually started with a bare bones brand new game, though you can, after completing a playthrough on any single profile, start with New Game Plus. And I did pick Titan, even though easy, normal, and hard are also there, and even though there is absolutely no reward for beating the game on Titan besides bragging rights. That, by the way, the little Omega symbol that you saw on the bottom right there, is one of the only times you will see the loading screen in God of War Ascension, because I cut them out throughout the entirety of the playthrough just to have a better experience, and because sometimes they popped up at really, really annoying times. Yeah. Welcome to Chapter 5, the Village of Kira. I speed up a little bit here because I'm literally just smashing things and getting red orbs in order to have enough to start upgrading. I also get a new world weapon, the club. I'm not going to actually be using it again like I do with all world weapons. I'm just going to be throwing it. Message from a villager of Kira. We were once a thriving town, but then he came. Now we're empty. Yeah, this is a dead town. No actual living people here. So we're about to have enough red orbs to do our first upgrade of the game, so we're going to go ahead and pause now and get to the upgrade menu. We only have one piece of gear actually imbued to us right now. Those are the Blades of Chaos, so we're going to go ahead and upgrade those right now to level 2. I will tell you right now, this is going to be expanded on more in, I think in episode 10 of the series, but you get less red orbs in Titan mode, and I'll get to that later. Because for now, we have these white chests, which contain either Phoenix Feathers or Gorgon's Eyes. 5 Phoenix Feathers increase your max amount of magic. We don't have any magic yet, but once we do, it'll start increasing the max amount of magic we can do. There are a total of 15 Phoenix Feathers in the game to upgrade our magic 3 times. Collecting 5 Gorgon's Eyes increases our health. There are a total of 20 Gorgon's Eyes in the game to increase our health a maximum of 4 times. So, before we talk more about that stuff, though, let's talk about these guys. The Juggernauts. The Elephantars, as they were once referred to. I hate these things. At least at this point of the game, I hate them. That's the reason. There it is. That fucking stomp attack. That stomp attack is the worst fucking thing imaginable. And I can't even begin to tell you just how difficult this part of the game is because of the Elephantar, or the Juggernaut, whatever you want to call it. and its stupid stomp attack. Everything else is so easy to dodge and roll out the way of, but that stomp attack is unacceptable. It is the worst thing. I never know when I'm going to be hit by it. I hate getting close to it because it's going to do that fucking stomp attack eventually. And this first fight of Chapter 5 has you deal with 2 Juggernauts, 2 Elephantars. So that's wonderful. I'd recommend using the Hounds here and, you know, throwing them at the Elephantars for some chip damage. I also recommend using the World Weapon to stun one of the Elephantars and do this little charging attack here. I don't know if it does chip damage to anything, but it does. I don't know if it does chip damage to anything that it rams into, but I know that it does chip damage to the actual Elephantar itself. So definitely take advantage of the fact that you should have 2 world weapons, the club, stun the Elephantar at the beginning, use the sword to stun the Elephantar or the other Elephantar later during the fight. And yeah, this fight just sucks. This is not a good fight. I don't like this fight at the very beginning here. Once you're close to killing a Juggernaut enemy in this game or any God of War, you can engage in a minigame to kill it. You don't have to engage in the minigame. You can't just keep attacking it and just kill it normally. But you can also engage in this really cool, bloody, gory minigame where killing that particular boss enemy not only gives you red orbs, but also gives you, you know, some different kind of orbs. So some enemies, when you kill them with a minigame, give you magic orbs. Some of them give you health orbs, like the Juggernaut gives you... Oh, Jesus. Look at how far away I was from that stomp, and it still got me. Fucking Elephantars, yeah. I like calling them Elephantars. I know they're actually called Juggernauts, but I like calling them the Elephantars. They're a really cool design. They feel like something that should be in Greek mythology, but they're not at all. This is not something that's based on Greek mythology at all, I believe. Look at how far away I am. Still. Fucking hate that stomp attack. It's awful. And I believe I'm gonna die one more time, but yeah, there it is. Not even a stomp attack this time. I was just frustrated, so I just got thrown off. So I died 3 times, sir. Those are the only 3 times I die in this video, I believe. I'm gonna say so. Sometimes the Juggernaut can grab you. You can go ahead and just attack and break out of that. This is what I mean when I say that some of the attacks in Titan mode are inconsistent. Some of them do essentially almost no damage to you. Some of them, like the Stomp, do inordinate, unacceptable, crazy amounts of damage to you. You never know what kind of attack is going to do what level of damage, so you gotta treat it all as dangerous. And take advantage of the iframes that Kratos gets when he grabs enemies or throws world weapons or rolls. Although the rolling one is obviously very inconsistent. Yeah, this is something that I personally don't like about Ascension, even in the lower difficulties. The difficulty is really, really lopsided, I want to say. Do I want to say that? Yeah, I guess I want to say that. It's kind of lopsided in the beginning. The kind of fights they throw you in at the very beginning compared to the very end, because we don't see Juggernauts in this game that often. That's actually another complaint. That's actually another minor thing about Ascension. They don't take advantage of their boss enemies that often. Like that troll we encountered in the first episode, I think we only see like, what, 2 or 3 more of those throughout the entirety of the game. The Elephantars we only see, God, I want to say only a couple of more times. They don't really take advantage of their big boss enemies that much in this game. Which is kind of a complaint. It's kind of a necessary evil because, you know, Ascension is supposed to be the earliest point in the God of War timeline, so we don't want to get too big and too crazy just yet when Kratos is just a guy at this point. I was really happy that cart was there. It stopped the Juggernaut from doing any more charging. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird how this game doesn't take advantage of its big giant monsters, especially this one. This is a really cool design. We don't see it nearly often enough. It's kind of a shame. Speaking of which, I may as well get back onto that topic from the first video. The fact that God of War Ascension got the lowest score of all the God of Wars up to this point, and that is true. So if you look at the Metacritic averages for all the God of War games, the original God of War, the 2005 PS2 title, got a 94 of 100 on Metacritic. God of War 2 has a 93. Chains of Olympus holds a 91. God of War 3 holds 92. Ghost of Sparta is an 86. And then Ascension is 80, which is the lowest of any God of War. It's not a bad score by any means. I do have my problems with this game, but this is a good game. This is a very high quality game, which obviously had a lot of effort and money thrown at it and put into it to make it as good as it is. But the lack of new ideas, the lack of I don't know what the right way to say it, because I don't want to say it's ambition, because it's not ambition. This is a very ambitious title. It's just the lack of mechanical ambition, I guess, in the gameplay and not necessarily in the story and the presentation, kind of holds this game back from being as good as like the original God of War, or God of War 2, or even Chains of Olympus and Ghost of Sparta, and especially God of War 3. Yeah, this game just doesn't push itself enough in the gameplay department or mechanically to do a lot of new stuff or to throw crazy scenarios at you all the time. That first opening hour in the first episode, you know, we don't really get back to that height again. Like, I know a lot of God of War games open with a big epic thing, with a big epic set piece, but we usually have like more epic set pieces later on down the line that are arguably better. Here's our second artifact of the game, by the way, Cersei's Vial. And another white chest, this time with another phoenix feather for ourselves. And here, by the way, is a red chest I never knew existed because I never noticed that this door here was breakable. But it is, and if you go in, you can get another red orb chest. I never knew that was there. And I played Ascension a few times, and yeah, never knew that was there. But yeah, mechanically, this game is not as ambitious as the other ones. Like, the other ones have those big epic set piece openings, which is really cool, but they usually have like other things throughout the game that are just as epic, if not more so than the opening, right? Like, Ascension doesn't really do that much. Like, it's gonna be a while before we get to another big epic set piece thing. Arguably, you can make the argument that like the pythons that we deal with in the next episode are pretty epic, but it's not as good as the Hecatoncheires thing in the beginning. Like, the next thing that we do that's as good as the Hecatoncheires thing in the beginning is like, God, what is it? It's like the end of the game, I think. The next big thing that we do that's as good and as epic and as interesting mechanically and such as the whole Hecatoncheires opening. I think it's the end when we actually do anything that's as interesting as that again, and even then it's not more interesting than that. But I digress. I don't know. That's just my opinion. Ascension is a good game overall. I do like Ascension a lot, despite those little nitpicks. It's just, you know, as we'll get into with Chains of Olympus next time, and the original God of War and God of War 2 and such, the other games just do the escalation of epicness better than Ascension, which I think is ultimately Ascension's biggest problem. I think that's the right way to say it. I don't know, I'm just rambling to myself here. I do like the story of Ascension. Any gripes I have with this game mechanically, I really do enjoy this game story-wise. This feels like Greek mythology to me. This complicated blood oath thing, where we're trying to break this oath to this god and trying to regain our freedom. That feels very, very, Greek tragedy to me. Very Greek mythology to me. That feels like something that is appropriate for this universe, for that kind of storytelling. So story-wise, I have essentially no problems with this game. Some people have some problems with this game for being a little too complicated compared to the other God of Wars, but the other God of War Greek mythology era games anyway. But I like it. I do like this. This being Kratos' first story before we get into the other titles where he is in service to the gods, and then after that where spoiler alert, I guess, for very old games, where he becomes a god himself. This feels like a very good beginning for that story-wise. So, yeah, in terms of story, I have no problems with this game. This game is fantastic story-wise. I really like it. Now, one of the problems I do have with this game comes with the lack of imagination with magic, so...
The heat of Ares' fire has no burn.
Yes. That, by the way, is... that character is someone who we'll meet in episode 5. The character that was speaking right there about Ares' fire. I'm not a fan of the magic in this game at all. Like, I don't like how the magic works in this game that much. In part because you never need any more magic than this, the fire of Ares. So now that we have magic, we can get into the main combat mechanics of this game. Because before, Kratos was operating without any magic at all, and we had a very basic understanding of how the rage meter worked. You know, you fill it up, Kratos' attacks get more powerful, you just fancier combos. But now that we actually have an element imbued into our blades, now we get into the real meat and potatoes of how the gameplay works. So Kratos is going to get up to 4 different elements to work with. Right now, he only has the fire, so he can only use the fire. You can't ever go back to having no elements again. So get used to Kratos wielding the fire element into his blades, as opposed to no element at all. Here's the way it works. Basically, you fill up your rage meter entirely, and Kratos will, again, have his blades be more powerful. He can do fancier attacks. You can see that doing that little slam attack there is causing these fiery explosions that stun and damage all enemies. Very useful. And he also has an L3R3 move. That L3R3 move is a rage move. You can use that move at the cost of your entire rage meter. Basically, for the Fire of Ares, the L3R3 move imbues a fire core into an enemy and then stuns them. And then explodes, causing damage and a stun. That move is actually very useful for big enemies, the L3R3 move. Not so useful for small enemies, but for big enemies, it's extremely useful to get that explosion off and do the little stun on them. You'll be seeing that later throughout the playthrough. We've also unlocked the Fire of Ares' magic move, which is that little Kratos slam down attack. This is the only time in the game where you get to use it as many times as you want, because now we actually have to deal with, with our magic meter, not having that actually be there. So the way the magic works is you only have one magic attack per magical element. So in the case of the Fire of Ares, you only have that one slam down attack. I believe. No, yeah, that's it. Every single element is going to have one magic attack. All the magic attacks are used with the R2 button. When we get more magical elements, we will be going ahead and actually showing that stuff off. Because one of the problems with this game, now I'll be showing that stuff off immediately as soon as I get the element, even if I'm not going to actually upgrade it throughout the playthrough. The reason I say that specifically is because one of the problems with this game is that there is almost no reason to not use the Fire of Ares. Like, most people that play this game don't ever touch the other 3 elements for any reason. I am going to use 2 of the other 3 elements a lot, but for the most part, the Fire of Ares is just the way to go. There's really no other way to do this. To play this game in Titan mode or in any difficulty, really, aside from just using the Fire of Ares. This is a very difficult battle right here. We have ourselves a first encounter with, I believe, a Satyr General. Some guys that are throwing spears, but those guys aren't an issue. We just get up here and kill them. The Satyr General won't bother us while we're up here. Now we get into the other method of actually fighting enemies, specifically armored enemies, and that is parries. I believe parries are unlocked in level 2 of the Blades of Chaos, so you absolutely want to make sure you get 3,000 red orbs and upgrade your Blades of Chaos once before this particular battle, because now we're no longer dealing with unarmored enemies. Now we just have armored satyrs to fight. And because of that, we cannot rely on just grabbing and throwing, because armored enemies cannot be grabbed and cannot be thrown until you actually damage them enough to remove their armor. So how do you actually do this? You need to use parries, which again, level 2 Blades of Chaos, 3,000 red orbs. Make the investment. It's very, very useful to do that. A parry automatically stuns an enemy. It opens them up to be grabbed and charged with. If Kratos slams that enemy, first of all, check this out. I missed that parry completely, but the incredible invincibility frames of that parry make it so I take no damage at all. So always be parrying against armored enemies. It pays off all the time. It's very excellent strategy. But yeah, no, I couldn't grab that enemy for some reason. That's a weird thing with Ascension too. Sometimes it has this weird aiming issues. Sometimes, not all the time. It's very inconsistent when it has issues or not. Regardless, always be parrying the Satyr General himself or the regular armored Satyrs themselves. Once Kratos grabs a stunned, human-sized armored enemy and charges with them, he can do one of two things with them. He can run with them for long enough where he just tosses them, and any enemies that he charges into while he's running take damage. Or you can charge that enemy. I believe I show it off right here. We're gonna see. Yeah, you can charge that enemy into a wall, any sort of a wall barrier at all, and Kratos will slam the enemy's head into that wall, and the enemy will automatically die. So that's pretty cool. Oh, jeez. Don't be afraid if the Satyr General grabs you like you saw there in that zoom in. You can still dodge out of the way of the final attack. You just got to make sure you're holding down the right stick for rolling the entire time. But get used to parrying. This is the perfect fight to teach you how to parry, and you really, really want to get used to it as quickly as possible, because otherwise you're not going to have a good time in Titan mode. I'll just tell you that right now. And even me, who had somewhat gotten used to it through a practice playthrough and stuff, I still die plenty of times in Titan mode. I keep track of all the deaths at the end of each video, by the way. Every time I die, as well as the end of each video, you can keep track of how many times I've died in Titan mode and how many times I've restarted in Titan mode. Restarts will be a thing I talk about later, but it's basically when the game bugs out and I can't actually continue on. That does happen a few times, and it is one of the complaints about Ascension. Compared to the other God of War games, this one is not as finely crafted as the other experiences. You will sometimes encounter some bugs that are, not fun at all. Got ourselves another world weapon, the sling. Again, you can toss it. I usually do. Not all the time, though. I believe this time I do use it a little bit, but overall, in Titan mode, I don't find the world weapons all that useful, which is why I'm not going to talk about them that much, because there's not much to say. You can press the circle button and Kratos will do a world weapon attack. You can do L1 in circle and Kratos will go ahead and just toss that world weapon for additional extra damage and then not have to worry about it anymore. Some chests glow green and blue, like that one that Kratos just opened. That means you can decide if you want more magic or more health. Obviously, I was at very low health, so I decided for more health. But obviously, the choice is up to you if you want more magic or more health. Got ourselves a nice little quiet climbing sequence here with a nice little shot of the moon. Yeah, aesthetically, I don't have much problems with Ascension. I think Ascension is a beautiful game. And you can see a lot of footage now of people playing it on the PlayStation 5, because you can play this game through PS Now, with the PS Now subscription. And the game looks wonderful and runs wonderful on the PS5. It's like this game was actually more or less made for a console way ahead of the PlayStation 3's time. Which, that might be true. I mean, maybe. It certainly feels like this was made for a console that, it certainly feels like that the team was very ambitious aesthetically and that the console just, the PlayStation 3 that is, just couldn't keep up with the ambitions of the team. I believe actually a lot of new people were working on Ascension as compared to the people that worked on the previous God of Wars. At the very least, it was a new game director. Is that right, or am I wrong? I'm going to go ahead and cheat and just take a look. Yeah, Todd Papy was the director of God of War Ascension, and he was not the director for the other God of War titles, so... Yeah, you know. New team, a little overly ambitious. Overall, though, Ascension is a really good title. It's a really quality title to sink your teeth into. Though I do have my complaints, as you've been hearing this whole time. Let me actually go back and talk a little bit about the magic system, because, again, I don't like it that much. The way magic works in this game as compared to other God of War titles, which we'll get into once we actually get into other God of War titles, but the magic system is bars. So upon initial receiving of magic, you get one magic bar, which lets you do one R2 magic attack. In this case, that little explosion thing that Kratos does with his blades, where he creates a massive explosion. You can press a button in a QTE cutscene to do a second explosion. You know, straightforward. But he only gets to do it once before never getting to do it again. I don't really like that system all that much. I prefer the other God of War titles with a different magic, with the bar that drains down normally to let you do as little or as much magic as you felt you wanted to. I don't know. The other God of Wars felt better with how magic was handled as compared to this one. I do like the rage system of this game, though. The rage system makes sense to me. All the rage attacks that you can do with all the elements, including the Fire of Ares, are all very useful. I know some people will say that some of those rage attacks are not useful at all, but I disagree. I think some of them are quite useful and quite handy. By the way, if you want to find out more of what happened to the village of Kira, I believe this is explained more in Episode 0, Rise of the Warrior, as part of that story has to do with what happened to this village and why it's abandoned and dead now. Got ourselves another fight here. Again, we don't have any armored enemies to deal with, unlike before with the satyrs, so don't worry too much about parrying. Parrying is more something you want to do for bosses and for humanoid enemies. For animals and dark creatures like these, you definitely want to focus on rolling and grabbing. Rolling and grabbing are the way to go for creatures like this. For more humanoid monsters like the satyrs, especially if they're armored, you want to grab. You want to grab, you want to grab, you want to... I'm sorry. You want to grab, you want to grab, you want to grab. You want to parry, you want to parry, you want to parry. That's what you want to do against them. Now, you may have noticed something else about this particular fight. I was only fighting those flying enemies, right? But the cutscene showed all these hounds here as well. Why didn't they come and attack me? Well, that's one of the big problems, I guess, with Ascension that really makes its higher difficulties not that hard sometimes. It's that Ascension has this weird issue where if enemies are not on camera, it's not even an issue. I think it's done on purpose, but it has some very exploitable. But it's very exploitable. Basically, if enemies are not on camera, they're not going to come after Kratos. So you see that I left behind another dog back there, and I'm just running around here. I'm perfectly safe. It's not going to actually do anything to me until it shows up, until I get close enough to it that I trigger its. I trigger it to start trying to attack me. But basically, if enemies aren't on camera, Kratos doesn't have to worry about them, which, you know, makes sense for a fixed camera game, but leads higher difficulties to be very exploitable because you don't have to deal with all the enemies at the same time. As you just saw, I dealt with the flying enemies first, then I dealt with the hounds. Not even all the hounds at the same time, just some, and then some were left behind because of the camera. That's a decayed chest. We'll be talking more about those later down the line. You can't do anything with them yet, but you will be able to, oh boy, like in chapter 13 of this game. This game is divided into 30 chapters. And we're only in chapter 5, so we're not going to deal with the decayed chest for a while. This is another thing people don't like about Ascension. This room is a great idea. This little side puzzle room where Kratos has to solve a little puzzle and he's rewarded with white chests, with phoenix feathers and gorgon's eyes. The problem is, this is like the only time that you do this in the entire game, as compared to the other God of War titles where there's a lot of rooms like this all the time, and I missed my opportunity there, so I have to do that again. So this room is a great idea, but it only happens like one time. I don't think there's another room like this in Ascension. And I mean, we'll go through it together, because I haven't seen this footage in a while. We'll go through it together, but I don't think there's another room like this in Ascension, which is kind of an issue. And as you can see, I collected 5 Gorgon's Eyes, so I got myself my first health upgrade, 1 to 4. Yeah. Only 3 Phoenix Feathers. Other God of War games take the opportunity to do stuff like this. I mean, not all the time, but more often, as opposed to Ascension, which I'm pretty sure this is like the only time we have a special little room like this, and then never again. It's very strange. I will, though, once again praise the cinematic camera for God of War. It's excellent, as always. Again, there's that weird issue with the enemies that don't attack you if they're not on camera, which is strange. But the actual, camera positioning for Kratos and the world around him, it's excellent all the way through. This is an excellent camera. It's been used for all the Greek mythology era God of War games for good reason, because it's a great idea. It really highlights the epic nature of the adventures you're on. Yeah, it's wonderful. We're about to encounter another boss monster, I believe, correct? Yeah. Another creature. This is Medusa. I believe this is this game's version of Medusa, because she's got that gaze that can turn you to stone. Yeah. Basically, roll out the way of that gaze. Block her tail swipes. If she grabs you, don't worry. It doesn't do that much damage at all. You saw how little damage it did to my health bar, if at all. You do a little bit of chip damage once you escape the grip. And the rest of this battle is just what I'm doing right now. I mean, there's not much to it. I speed it up because in Titan mode, enemies have a lot of health, and even sped up, this is close to a minute of just blocking and just doing some basic attacks. It's not that interesting. And because this is the early part of the game, we're not fighting, this Medusa and like 5 other enemies at the same time. It's just the Medusa, so. We're almost done, though. I believe we are almost done. I hope we're almost done, because again, this is still nearly a minute of just sped up basic fighting, because Titan mode, a lot of health, you don't do that much damage. I believe, though, now we're going to get into... Yeah, there it is. There it is. This is a particularly brutal kill that Kratos pulls. I know he literally brained the Juggernaut, like he exposed the brain of the Elephantar's / Juggernauts. But he's going to cut this thing in half. Like, this is... Jesus. Oh, Jesus. Yeah, very different from Mega Man. There's another decayed chest for us. Chest is old and decayed. Again, we'll be worrying about that in Chapter 13, when, spoiler alert, we start making our way back through old areas again. For now, though, we forge ahead to this little hallway section. Not much to worry about here in terms of gameplay. Just some bugs that are going to get in your way. I believe there's some Megara's minions. And another world weapon, the sling, again. I believe we've seen all but one of the world weapons at this point. We saw... What did we see? We saw the sword, we saw the club, we saw the sling, we saw the spear. I believe there's only one more world weapon that we get later, which is a shield, which is the only world weapon I find remotely useful at all. This whole thing here, by the way, is the God of War Ascension's big Easter egg. We don't have to worry about this yet. This is something we will worry about in episode 6, I believe. If I'm not mistaken. Yeah, see, that parasite could have attacked me at any point, but because it wasn't on camera, I just decided not to come after Kratos. Very strange. How the game decides to do that. But anyway, we are now in Chapter 6. The Cistern. This is a very short chapter, not much to it. We start off with another fight with various Megara bugs. The Megara bugs are all elemental based, by the way. The ones that we saw in the first episode did not have an element based on them. Just as Kratos did not have an element imbued into his blades yet, the bugs also did not have an element that was associated with them. But now they do. These ones are associated with fire, so when they explode, they cause little fire damage, and they can also attack you with fire-based attacks. Not particularly interesting, because you're never going to give them a chance to actually show off those attacks. At least you shouldn't give them a chance to show off those attacks. Yeah, nothing to it. Just grab them and toss them. And get rid of their little nests, too, just for some extra red orbs. Again, as we'll get into in episode 10, red orbs are kind of an issue in Titan mode specifically for God of War Ascension, because you don't get the same amount as you do in other difficulties. We'll get into that in episode 10, though, where I actually show you the math of how many red orbs you get from certain chests as in Titan mode as compared to lower difficulties. For now, though, we got ourselves into the Gorgon's Eye, number 6. We're well on our way to our next health upgrade, which is cool. So I mentioned before I wasn't a big fan of how Ascension doesn't really have any other epic set-piece moments. That's not to say I don't like the downtime in God of War. I really do like the downtime that we get in between big moments in God of War games. I think it's necessary, frankly, to have downtime in between big set-piece moments. But Ascension gives you too much downtime in between big set-piece moments. And the moments that it thinks are big set-piece moments are not really that big. Not compared to other God of War games, and even not within the context of this game itself. These moments are not that big. Like, we're going to get into some stuff that the game thinks are big, epic fights and moments the next video. But compared to stuff that you see in other God of War games, I mean, again, I like Ascension, but it's just lacking in some ambition and some ideas that the other titles don't lack in at all. Still, it's exciting to start a brand new Let's Play series with the weakest title, with arguably the weakest title in the franchise, because it's only going to get better from here, and this is already pretty good. So I'm excited to see where this takes us next. Now we get our second element. This is going to be the Ice of Poseidon, as the screen will show you in a second. I never use this for anything. Obviously, you have to use it here for this battle. You have to use the element you're given for that particular first battle. But I never use this element for anything in Titan mode. It is useful. Don't get me wrong. Each element has something associated with it, so the Ares element does the most damage. The Ice of Poseidon can freeze enemies, and if you kill frozen enemies, you do get more red orbs, and there are exploits for this later in the game. Quote-unquote, infinite red orb spawn points, where you can basically freeze enemies forever and keep getting infinite red orbs. So there's definitely use to the Ice of Poseidon. But in terms of basic gameplay requirements and basic getting through this game in Titan mode, essentially, this is not going to be useful to you. You're not going to use the Essence Poseidon at all. When it comes to upgrading my gear, I'm not going to touch the Essence Poseidon at all. I'm not going to use the Essence Poseidon at all. There is literally no reason to use it, which again is a problem with God of War Ascension, where the other magic just pales in comparison to the Fire of Ares. Like, you're going to use the Fire of Ares all the time. It's rage ability, it's magic ability, just getting your rage meter up so you can do like fiery explosion attacks. All of that is really, really useful for Titan mode, or for the game in general, whereas the other magical abilities don't really stack up or measure up. And by the way, we're cutting to this because I'm showing you how the magic for the Essence Poseidon works, because unlike the Fire of Ares, you're never going to see the magic attacks for the other elements, unless, of course, you upgrade them. I'll explain that in a second, because right now I'm showing you that if you kill a frozen enemy, you get a bunch of red orbs, which again leads to infinite spawn points that you can take advantage of. And there's a whole list of moves that you get for the Essence Poseidon when it's fully upgraded. What I'm trying to say is you're never going to see the magic attacks for the other elements, because unlike the Fire of Ares, which gives you the magic attack right at the start, right as soon as you get it, the other elements, the Essence Poseidon and the two others that we get in the later videos, you're not going to see those magic attacks unless you specifically upgrade those elements in the pause menu. Whereas the Fire of Ares gives you the magic immediately right off the bat, the other elements require you to upgrade your gear in order to see those magic attacks. And it's not even level 2. It's, I believe, the level 3 upgrade for all the magic attacks except the Fire of Ares, if you want to actually do the R2 attack, the R2 magic attack that drains 1 magic meter. So, for the most part in this game, you're only ever going to be seeing me use the Fire of Ares, because the Fire of Ares is the only one that's readily available at all times. You have to put a lot of investment into your other magic, into your other elements, I should say, in order to get access to more different kinds of magic. So that's a problem with the magic in this game, the fact that most of it is locked. I am going to be unlocking some of the magic, specifically for the other 2 elements that we don't have yet. Remember, APE, always be exploring. Even if there isn't anything here, you always want to make sure you explore just in case. I am going to be unlocking the magic for the other two elements, but not for the Essence Poseidon. And that's the problem with this game. But we'll get into that, because now we have ourselves a cutscene. So I will see you all in a little bit. Or in a moment, because the snake is going to take a second to get started here. Come on, Snakey. There you go. Okay, now I'll see you all in a little bit. See you all next time. Bye-bye.